Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Monday morning. And that's right, damn it, grumpy.
Bring out
Oh,
Grumpy.
yes, and he is extremely grumpy this morning, as can be seen, as seen on TV. He is not too happy. But I know I spilled my guts. I feel a lot better because I was in the post match. Then I did the post match video. I feel like I really spilled my guts over the last 24 hours, so it feels a bit better. How are you feeling this Monday?
I haven't spilt my guts as much, so not as good probably as you. I will say it was really funny to see when the thumbnail for the post match came up. It was the thumbnail of it. All four of you are smiling and laughing, and I'm like, did we fucking win? Was I dreaming? What happened? Everyone's smiling, and I was like, yeah, you're allowed to smile. You know, this is. I think we've talked about this for years, even going back to. Remember, like one of my first podcasts with you guys, it was an evening show from, I don't know, 2020, 2021, something like that.
Archives.
I went looking that's how sad I was. I went looking back 4 years ago. We talked about, understanding that while this is an important part of our lives, it's not the part of our lives, the only part of our lives. And there have to be things outside of football. I know it seems blasphemous, but there have to be things outside of football that you can take a step back to try and enjoy and appreciate, because otherwise you're just going to be in that cloud of just sadness and negativity more than you should be. Not You're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to be upset, you're allowed to be disappointed, but you also want to recognize that sometimes there is a little bit more to the weekend than just the result. And while the result wasn't great, it was far from terrible too.
Yeah, I can't remember who we were talking about this with somebody the other day in terms of. I think it was on the Monday night podcast that I am maturing a bit where I'm like, maybe it was a morning show. I can't remember where it was, but we're talking about that. It bugged the hell. I mean, during the games is a different story, but after the games, I'll tell you what, the post matches do really help. So I do recommend it. Like, it feels like we do the same thing with my brother for like the Fenerbahce game, and that's kind of like how it started with him as well, because it was a good therapy session, especially after a result like this. If it's good, it's good anyway, right? And then you just like joke and laugh and stuff. But if it's not as good, then it's a good therapy session where you kind of get together, you kind of like, you kind of let it out and let it go. Then it always becomes, we're all having the same vibes. I think, connecting with other people that are in the same mindsets or emotional states kind of helps in that way. You kind of like talk it off, get it off your chest, couple of jokes, we laugh, and you leave, and it almost feels like therapy to me, at least, the post match. And then I recorded the video at night, so that's another. It's almost like a diary, if you will, me spilling my guts to the camera kind of thing for like 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it might be, which I heard it was like choppy, so I had to go back and look into that. It could just be me that's choppy, and I tried to go without the green screen in the back and stuff like that, so I don't know, that was the issue. But good times. Alan says I spilled my guts too, got food poisoning by Saturday evening. Polish cuisine, I assume. That has to be the.
You wanted to open a restaurant with Polish food, so you watch your mouth.
Well, I was trying to fix it by adding Turkish stuff. That was the whole theme of the restaurant.
Slowly, it would be pulled Turk, and then over time, you walk in and go, "Okay, I'm interested in what they have today." It's just a full ass Turkish menu. The only thing Polish is the vodka behind the bar.
We lose the P. It's like all Turk restaurant.
You get the little accent by the A, and then all of a sudden you're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, it's like my effort in making Polish food better by adding Turkish food is all we were doing. But yeah, smooching has more emotions. That's why it doubles does it, Cersei. Yeah, I mean, man, honestly, the funny thing is, this is part of the maturing part, I think. Like, I just look at some of these WhatsApp chats and stuff like that, and just people losing their minds.
It's bad.
Kills me. That's one thing that kills me. And people with like strong agendas really kill me, whether that's against like the owners, against a specific player. Uh, it's just like that's the part that really annoys me. Or people who last week were saying the complete opposite of what they were saying, now saying something totally different, like 6 days later or something like that. Those are the things that kill me more. And I think, like when I respond, really, it's more like, getting those people off my chest, maybe, than my emotions. I mean, we'll start with I hate to talk about it even more because I did spill my guts a lot, but the Trent's ordeal, like, where are you with that? Because I just see it go, and which is fine if you're on this I'll drive you to the airport mode. I have no problems with that. But if you got there within the last 4 to 5 days, then there's something wrong there as well.
Yeah, the Trent one's a hard one. I think you're allowed to have a bad game. You're human. These players are human.
Okay, let me ask you this, but since you said that, as we start here, as we talked about that, did he just have a bad game, and it had to, it corresponded with the timing of all this, or do you think the timing, all the chicken and the egg, the timing of all this is what caused the bad game?
I think we've seen evidence of his lack of consistent attitude and his mentality not being completely there in different situations beyond the contract negotiations. We're talking about last year, talking about 2 years ago, where there are moments where he just didn't seem like he was switched on. And I think the most disappointing thing for me, outside of him having just a bad game in general, is that this is a guy who grew up supporting this club, who knows what this fixture means to the people.
Yeah.
And to put in that kind of a shift mentality wise, effort wise, attitude wise, I think is just inexcusable. I'm not going to sit here and and say he should never play for this club again. We should get rid of him yesterday. Blah blah blah. I think we're better than that as a fan base. But I do also think there is room to say, yeah, that was an awful performance with an awful attitude behind it, given the context around what's going on, which is just making everything worse. It's just magnifying everything. So that's the tough part, is that if this was against, I don't know, let's say this was the West Ham game, and then 2-2 with the weather as it was, let's say everything was the same except the team was different, we go, fine, whatever, weather, we look at other things. But because this was United, because this was the fixture, sometimes the fixture of the year for a lot of fans, you will take things a lot differently. And unfortunately, I think that's where we're at.
I think, it's more than any players afforded, can have a bad game. I think, we all understand that, and we're not okay with it. But, and honestly, if Bradley had come back from the injury maybe last week, I think we see Bradley coming in the 60th or something like that. I just think, his, like minutes more like limited and stuff like that, so he could not come until later. But then I see all these people like suddenly starting Bradley over Trent every game now and stuff like that. Whereas 2 days ago they were giving $500,000 a week to Trent. So like you gotta pick a lane and try to stick with it. You can't just blame him out of like one performance. We've been talking about the contracts all season. This has been his best season. I think given the opponent and timing it's made, I think that's part of it, right? Maybe if this was October, I don't think we're even relating it to the contracts. If anything, we were saying, this is what we should offer and blah, blah, blah. You might try to link it to the contracts, but we're not thinking, Madrid and all that kind of stuff. We're just saying like, oh, Trent had a stinker or something like that. The timing is bad. And I don't know, like, I thought Slot handled it very well, where he kind of put it on United having good players for like the problems that Trent had, and little even like to Gravenberg not helping him as much and stuff like that. But I go to that first goal, from losing the ball to kind of like how he defends that entire sequence afterwards, and you're like, dude, like, focus, what the fuck, like, what are you doing? Like, you're not there. And this was, Yeah, part of me was like, is it they almost anticipated an easier game, but they know better. They've been in these games. Going back to what you were saying, he knows the rivalry, and he's been in games because of the rivalries where, United and Everton games are kind of like they're a different category where, we've been at our peak and Everton has been shit for the last five, but we've still had like 0-0s and stuff like that. It's always a tough game. Same thing with United. Yeah, I mean, they hadn't scored at Anfield in ages. Maybe that's what it was in his mind. I don't know, but you can kind of see with his body language, and let's talk about that because obviously a lot goes to the body language thing. And I can understand having like having a different body language. Like I don't expect everybody over there to be like frowning and being all serious or whatever. It was actually really interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but they were talking. There was like a sit around with, I can't remember the third player, but it was Mo and Robertson in there. And Mo talked about, and he joked that it's the only thing he learned from Robertson is not being too down when he misses an opportunity and almost like laughing it off and like, like smiling to us. Is like, why are you fucking smiling? You just missed or whatever. And he was talking about Robertson going to him and saying, hey, when you look defeated after you miss an opportunity and you look all like flustered, you're a leader. It reflects on the rest of the team. When you're confident, like it's going to come back again, everybody gets uplifted. And Mo was joking that, that's one thing he learned. That's the only thing he learned from Robertson all these years. So I can understand the body language thing, how you react to stuff like that. It's like the effort part that kills me. Because in the post-match, I asked Sergi about the body language, and that was like a bad wording on my part because Van Dijk doesn't look like he gives a damn either. Like the way he's walking around and his demeanor in general, but we kind of like that. As calm as you like, he makes it look easy and stuff like that. To me, it's just like some of the effort that he shows in tracking back or watching the focus levels more than like him smiling, taking a throw. And I don't care what he does if he puts in the effort.
Yeah, it's not about smiling. It's not about looking like you're having the time of your life. It's like you're saying, it's about the effort. We can go back to talking about having bad games. We've seen bad players at this club put in the shift of their lives against teams like United, against teams like Everton, because they understand what it means as a rivalry as a whole, right? And so for someone who is from the area to not have that mentality, I mean, I think, between him, outside of his goal, I think Gakpo was pretty poor. I think McAllister was the only one who really felt like would actually put a tackle in yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem as a team overall, as far as just the grit, I think. I don't know if it was the weather. I think there probably was a really good percentage of that was because of the weather. And I get it. When it's freezing, there's freezing rain, you don't want to necessarily go in too hard because you're also worried about what's going to happen to you on the other side. I understand that. It's
yeah, but they're playing in the same weather. I know what you're
sport.
saying.
Yeah, it's sport. But at the same time, like what you have to still put that effort in. You have to make that tackle. If you make Diogo Dalot look like a world-class wingback on the left side, there's issues beyond the weather. That's just you're just switched off completely. You're just not even, you almost expect that everything behind you is going to go just fine. And maybe this is all compounded by the fact that United's having such a bad year. If they weren't having such a bad year, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this the way that we are. But when you also throw that into the mix, that adds a lot to it too. This was a team that wasn't supposed to score at all here. They weren't supposed to even see our half of the field. Gary Neville was shoveling snow back on Anfield because he was jokingly didn't want the team to play, right? I mean, every United fan seemingly was like, yeah, we'll take a 3-0 and we'll leave. We don't want to get beaten 7-0 again. That was the only thing. We don't want to get destroyed. And everyone was like that. And I think me too, to a certain extent with Gally on the watch along show, there was too much confidence around the game. Too much like, oh yeah, this is another 4-5-6-0, no big deal, easy. And you throw in the weather, and then all of a sudden, little by little, you have a bunch of players that just have off games, and it just compounds into what we saw.
I mean, and this was on their parts. I mean, you got to give credit to them. They are in ridiculously poor form, but they had this, you could tell, circled on the calendar as a game that they can put effort in because they know this score will give them another 2-3 weeks of peace, kind of like an ordeal. I know they play Arsenal now in the cup and stuff like
It's
that,
like
but
last year. Last year, if they got
yeah,
the result in the cup, they could derail Liverpool's season. You know how happy the United fans were, or how happy they are looking back on that, saying they derailed the entire Liverpool
yep,
season with
yep,
with Diallo's last minute goal there. Yeah, I mean, it's if you can do that, and now I think the worst part is now, and sorry to cut you off, but like now doubt creeps in more, I think, and maybe more on the fan side of things. So now we become a bit more cynical. We were just talking 2-3 weeks ago about being on the bus like this. Like, let's be honest, this title race it's kind of over, right? And then now we've just become naturally more cynical, and there's more doubt, and then we're going to look and criticize things more and more because all of a sudden we're looking at it going, oh no, is this really what's going on? Is this really over, kind of thing? And I think that's on us too, and tempering
yeah.
expectations and whatnot. But yeah, it's for them. This was their game of the year so far.
I think it's one of those where did Dalla ever get the ball back? Well, I mean, I think when Bradley came in, he took it once because I think Trent was 0-5 in dual, ground duels. So obviously he lost every single one of them. But I think that's not on the team. That's on fans in some ways. I mean, you just listening to Van Dijk over there after in the post match, the realization that they just didn't play well at all. I mean, they probably didn't even deserve to get the point. If Maguire should really finish that, I know it's not a good ball coming in, especially for a center back and stuff like that. But I think they realize that it would be one thing to play decent and lose. I think that's more doubt creeping than saying, hey, we got to take care of business. It's like it's a bit easier for a team to refocus when they acknowledge that they were just shit that day, as opposed to having a game where, like, man, I thought we were decent too. What happens? Kind of a thing. I feel like a game like the Forest game is a lot more demoralizing in some ways, where we lost at home, where we should have really won. I mean, we had the pressure and we tried to create and stuff like that, compared to a game like this where you're like, I mean, yeah, we were shit. We were lucky to get out of here with a point, kind of thing. I feel like it would be, in that sense, better for the team. And listening to Van Dijk in the post match, that's the vibe I got, at least. But it's more than doubt creeping in on the fans, because I think some fans already had that, right? We don't want to I mean, I mean, maybe that was because of the 30-year thing, but we were up by 12 points. Some people were like, you never know, we gotta wait and stuff like that with the COVID season. So I understand it would be more giving hope to Arsenal because there's still 6 points. They can say, hey, if we win there, that's a 6-point game. We get 3 points with one single game, kind of a thing. It kind of keeps them in there, I guess, is my bigger concern, because it would have been extremely demoralizing if we did win yesterday, because they would know, man, we're never going to catch these guys at this rate. So that's, you made it 8 points with a game in hand. So at the minimum, you're looking at a 3-game lead with like 18, 17 to go. So that's very demoralizing for a team chasing you, where they don't see you tripping at all. So now they're gonna be saying, well, they're tripping too. The good thing for us, I guess, is, I mean, Saturday's results. And I think Sparky was saying it in the pre-match in the comments, it makes a draw okay. It doesn't make it disastrous, but a win would have made it really sweet, because you would make it 8 points now with the game in hand. And I expect that game in hand to play out just like yesterday did. And depends on how well we play. Maybe yesterday's game will help that, because it will be like an eye opener. I guess we're going to find that out. I'm sure Spurs fans are like, fuck, because, now we're going to go to that game and we'll see. Because I expect us to go more full force against Spurs and then like lighter on like the weekend thing. I mean, here's the thing. I was talking about this in the not the post match, but like the video I did afterwards. Oh no, this one right here. Sorry. Trent offered nothing attacking wise yesterday. So his defensive weakness was highlighted more. See, that's the thing. And the problem with Trent, and I think this is, that's becomes a problem. And I would think it's a problem for Slot as well, because that was a very anti-Slot thing. he does with, some of the gambles he takes. And I would think it's built into the system because of his passing ability, but to a certain extent. So when Trent is having a poor game, and it's one of those games where like nothing is connecting, and we've been there. Like, see, like you can probably relate to this a bit more because you're like a goalie. So, as a goalie, as a defender, if you're an actual defender, or a midfielder, it's a bit easier to get into games. Because if nothing is working your way, you can kind of still put a tackle in. There are games where oh my God, man, like none of my passes are going where they're supposed to. So you can kind of say, you know what, I'm just going to control myself, go put in a sliding tackle, block a shot, push a guy off the ball. Even if you like boot it, I was a sweeper, so you come across and then, boot it to a throw in or something like that, cut a long pass off or whatever. Those, like, you slightly building that confidence back, and then you start playing and you go away. With him, because he's not a good defender, obviously he wasn't winning the duels. His only way out of that is like a shooting guard in basketball. He just keeps taking shots. But the problem is when it's not working, he keeps giving the ball away, and he did it over 25 possessions lost yesterday by Trent.
They actually, I think they corrected it as 27.
Woo!
Yeah.
I just another one, 28.
I saw someone post that, and I was like, this can't be real. And then I went through and I clicked through every single player to see how much possession was lost by each player. I was like, how the hell did he manage 27 times? It's impressive in its own way.
I actually look and see like how many touches he had, because that's a pretty high ratio to lose it that many times.
Yeah. It's I think, and that's what I think compound is the word of the day. It just, everything just sort of snowballs onto each other, and it becomes this big, massive avalanche of negativity around Trent. And I'm a little worried, I think, just around the emotional side of things of him possibly leaving just to see how fans react in general. I don't know. I feel like in the stadium would be different than outside of the stadium. I think online's much different in how he would be treated versus how he would be treated at Anfield. But I don't know. It's if this kind of thing explodes people the way it does, like I can only imagine when these people are saying, "Hey, just leave." I can only imagine how they're going to react when he actually does leave. Because there's one thing saying, "Hey, just pack your bags and leave." We don't want you here anymore. And then as soon as it's through, and you look and you go, "Oh wait, hold on, shit." Like once you think that you're making a mistake all of a sudden, because I think there will be a number of fans that will look and go, "Wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be celebrating this as much as we are." I don't know. It's a weird situation. I grew up really loving Trent. Obviously, we're not the same age. We're 5 years apart, but it felt like
you're not that young anymore. So let's get out of that. Okay, now those were the days, brother. Those are gone.
But more so than Stevie G, it felt like I grew up with Trent. I grew up watching Stevie, but I grew up with Trent, if that makes sense. So for me, it's really weird thinking about him not being here. And I think it's tougher for me to criticize him, even though I'm able to be more objective than I have been in the past. I think there still is a level that I just there's that homer in me that just will defend him in certain areas when I can. The tough part about yesterday, there's not much to defend. He did play the ball for the penalty. Unless I'm misremembering.
I can't even remember the penalty now. Oh, the cross in?
The cross in. When it
Wow, that's really stretching. That's like you're saying, I did turn the TV on though, so I was part of that goal as well. Kind of, yeah, I don't know about that.
I was just thinking, if I were to find one thing to defend, okay, this needs to die. This needs to die. You have to go back and rewatch that episode, whatever it was.
Receipts on this one,
because I said there is a reason why people think that KDB is better than Steven Gerrard. I didn't say it.
Okay, here's the thing with Trent, and this is what I kind of talked about this a little bit on the video because I'm kind of sick of talking about it. But we always do this thing, right? Like if he was my son, kind of like the advice. If he came to me and said, "What should I do?" Even if I wasn't a Liverpool fan, he was like, "Uncle Timuchin, Uncle Timuchin, what should I do?" I mean, business wise, I don't think it makes sense. It just does not. Like, the money doesn't make sense because, we thought, or I actually thought, maybe the money part would be a lot bigger than I thought. But based on what we're reading over the weekend in terms of what Liverpool offered, I think that's more than a fair offer for what you are getting in return to a non-defending right back who has the ridiculous passing ability and creativity and stuff like that. So I get that. So I feel like that's fair. You're going to go to Real and maybe get like another 150,000 a week or whatever. So for 4 or 5 years in the short term, you're going to make more money. But then when you come back, you're just going to be an Owen. You're going to be I mean, I loved watching McManaman, like growing up and stuff like that. But he is not, you can kind of tell, like, he is not. I think Jamie Carragher was talking about this, that he does not get a lot of love from Liverpool fans because he left, kind of a deal. And another thing is, and I think like Carragher was talking about this yesterday, it'd be one thing to leave this team 10 years ago, right? You could tell, you can say, hey, this team is not going anywhere. Like when Coutinho left, I mean, the way he left was shit to my back and stuff like that. But, the timing of like, or the situation or whatever, if somebody said, no, I want to go somewhere and win trophies, you couldn't fault them, sadly, at that time, because we were nowhere close, it looked like, right? Whereas you're top of the league, heavy favorites still to win the title, you're top of the Champions League. This is a team that's relatively young, right? Aside from the guys that you're going to lock up, hopefully, with like Van Dijk and Mo, that midfield is very young. You have attackers that are young. So, and you have not made additions. So you're probably going to make more additions this summer to this team that fits slot system and stuff. So this team is going to be winning. So you're leaving that to go to Real Madrid. I mean, I think somebody, maybe it was like Shelton or somebody was saying it in the comments yesterday. If there's a game like this in the Clasico, they would like butcher him. I mean, literally, and he might not play. Like, he would be benched immediately and stuff, probably. And there's a huge group of people in Liverpool, because he's a local kid, that has his back regularly and makes excuses for him. Or Klopp, no manager told you to leave your guy when it was a give and go. No fucking manager ever told you that. Because I've never complained about his positioning. Where's Trent? He's not back or whatever. But when he's back, he has been poor defensively, caught ball watching. He had actually gotten a lot better this year, actually, defensively. We talked about this before. But there's still a lot of people that make excuses for him because he's a local kid. And like you, maybe they grew up kind of watching him and, they love having him on the club and stuff. Those people are not going to Madrid with him. And he's not there. He's not going to have anybody backing him because you're just a dude that showed up over there, as opposed to, like, you're not going to be what Bellingham. Bellingham got a ton of crap this year after the season he had last year. So you have no shot in going over there. And even if Real Madrid wins everything under the sun, one, they regularly do. So you had no impact. And two, you're maybe still the fourth or fifth guy in the, when you look at the credits, you look at the cast, you're going to be the 5 or 6 names scrolling up in the cast. You're never going to be, forget top 3 when you have Mbappe, Vinicius, and like Bellingham, and so you're never going to be up there. So I just don't understand this whole, he wants a new adventure thing. It's like, dude, go get on a fucking roller coaster. I mean, this is definitely not a good business decision. I don't think it's a good career decision. And I'm not even saying this. I'm just his uncle. I'm not even saying this as a Liverpool fan. So if he comes to you, what do you tell him? If you can't take the Liverpoolness out of the equation.
Yeah. I mean, I have a question though for you, kind of to play your role a bit, because you just mentioned the credits right after winning everything under the sun. Let's say he stays, finishes out the year. Liverpool wins, let's say, 2 trophies, right? Well, I don't care which ones. And the credits roll. Is he the top 3 in these credits too, though?
Where would you put him? You would put Mo, Van Dijk.
McAllister.
I think in fans' eyes, he would be 3rd. Who are you putting? Who did you say? I'm sorry?
McAllister.
See, people would not put McAllister. I think fans would not put McAllister. I might, you might, or people who value like what he does midfield. But it's like Henderson. Who put Henderson anywhere near the top 10 when we were winning shit, even though he was a
smart ones.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think a lot of people would pick McAllister.
So, okay,
and
so
here's another thing though, like
okay.
You can see the credits roll now, right? And then you can see the credits roll in 2030. What a decade! God, we're old. What a decade the 20s were. I never thought I would say the 20s.
Oh God!
Unless it was like World War One.
What have you done?
Why? Because I thought I want to be World War One. Well, the tens. But anyway, so 20s. What a decade that was, right? He would then be definitely in the top 3 of those, the credits that are rolling, because he would have been here throughout the Renaissance. It would have been him, Mo, Van Dijk as the main guys. Like Maka, Gravenberg, all those guys would have been, they joined afterwards. He would be up there. And then 15 years from now, when you look back, he will be Mr. Liverpool, who won this with, and he can, bottle his farts and sell them and make more money than he's going to get paid a week at Madrid. That's the business part of it, I think, because your value is you are Mr. Liverpool. And I would think that would mean something to him. He's showing by going to Madrid that does not mean much to him. And I think that's why, and I don't blame him, people get offended by that. Like, nobody got offended when Arda Güler left Fenerbahce for Real Madrid. That's a totally different scenario, because you're going to the world stage. He is at the world stage.
Well, he was also 17, though. He didn't do anything for Fenerbahce.
Oh, you got him a boatload of money, and that was another thing. Like, he signed a contract so Fenerbahce would get money for him.
Yeah, but I don't think you can compare those two situations. If he had stayed there, won the league.
Oh, he would have been a bigger legend, but he did not get as much of a negative thing, because you're going from one level to another. I feel like Trent is at that world level right now. You're playing for the team who's like unbeaten, has not lost a point in the Champions League. So one of the favorites to win the Champions League, one of the favorites to lead the title. So you going somewhere else for trophies basically means you don't believe in this team, or that's what I mean. I don't take that as an excuse. I would have taken it 10 years ago. Yeah. I would have taken it when Coutinho was starting to sell it, but not now, because you are already at the peak.
Yeah, I think that's why it's difficult to stomach and swallow for a lot of people. I don't know, but these same people similar people were giving Zubimendi shit for wanting to stay in Spain and deciding to not come over here are the same people telling Trent to leave.
But that goes back to the levels thing. Not that I agreed with them, but I'm saying, like, you can kind of say, Zubimendi, where you're at to where you're going are different levels. So if Trent is saying, I am doing the same thing, this is a different level, Trent is saying Madrid is way higher levels than Liverpool. And that's not going to sit well with anybody who's a Liverpool fan. More importantly, he's from Liverpool. I mean, I don't think, you should, as Trent, I would think you care more about people of Liverpool think than what you and I think. I would assume.
Yeah, I think, in the perfect scenario, I think we all believe that. We all want to believe that. We all, based on what he said, based on who he is, we want to believe that. Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes people aren't always who they say they are. You can go back to the Henderson example, everything that he stood for as a captain, that he was outspoken about, and then he fucks off to some country that doesn't believe in any of that. So
shouldn't that be a great example for him, though, saying, like, look how it ended up for him, the backlash that he got, and
maybe he doesn't see that backlash as that bad. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's fine with that, right? So maybe mentally he's fine with that, and if that's where he's at, fine.
So if you're the uncle, what are you recommending him? You hung up on him. You were like, let me call you back. I'm in a meeting.
Listen here, Trenty. Your family would love you no matter what. Click. We'll support you no matter what. Hang up and then done. Yeah, I will find it
These
very.
are going to Spain after you hang up.
It's tough. I wish I could sit here and pick a side. I feel like I'm genuinely a bit.
Okay, is it a good business decision? Let me help you over here.
I also think the Bale situation is different. Sorry, I just saw one of the comments. Business wise, this might be an unpopular opinion. Business wise, I don't think it matters whether he stays or he goes because of what social media is now and the accessibility of being an influencer, if you will, of being paid to make posts and ads. I don't think it would matter business wise if he left or if he stays, because I think he'll be fine either way.
Yeah, see, I disagree.
I know, and I understand what you were saying.
If in 15 years, a 40-year-old Trent who stayed in Liverpool makes more money, royalties, whatever, sponsorships, you name it, ads, commercials, than the Trents who went to Madrid, I think. I mean, like I say, I'm this is my guess, but he would make more money in 15 years. For the next 5 years, yeah, definitely a better business decision. But 15 years from now, I think the Trent who stayed in Liverpool and is Mr. Liverpool is raking in cash in England, as opposed to the guy who went.
I think it depends on how his time at Real Madrid would be. In your scenario, because in my scenario, nothing changes.
He wins 3 La Ligas and 2 Champions League titles.
Being a core piece of that team, yeah, I think that changes things.
The core piece of the team is the 5th guy at best.
At Real Madrid?
So, yeah. So where is he going to make the money? Is he a Real Madrid legend now? No, he's not. Mbappe is your new Real Madrid legend. Vinicius is your Real Madrid legend. He just joined the party.
They're the Galacticos 2.0. They're forever remembered by Real Madrid as the second Galacticos.
Oh, that's right. Trent was there. Who was the right back? Carvajal, and then Trent came, I think. That's the conversation there.
But in Spanish.
That's the conversation there. Whether people like it or not, that's the conversation there.
Maybe I'm more optimistic for the fans' feelings around what he would be remembered as, because that's maybe what I'm thinking about him here. But you could be totally right.
Because he's not going to be he's not going to be a Madrid legend within 5 years that he's going to be there. He's not. And then you lost your Liverpool legendary status by leaving. That's why I feel like it's a bad business decision. If you don't like your boss and your friend works for another cool company, says Steve.
It's difficult because usually the companies we work for aren't under scrutiny under the public eye so often. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I assume, his feeling is that feels he's not getting what his value is, or he's being told, hey, this is not your value. Obviously, Real Madrid values you more. They were even willing to pay for you in January when they didn't have to. Maybe that's why that offer is coming through, to show that how much they value him. They're going to give you this much weekly, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to get that money over here. Real Madrid is ambitious. And that's basically probably, what he's being sold, because that's the sales pitch, right? I just don't know. The grass is greener on the other side ordeal. I mean, how many more examples do you have of people going to Real and never being heard again, or just disappearing in the mix, compared to going to Real and becoming a legend?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
I was doing the numbers. Like, obviously, there's some you're gonna go there. I mean, they're like a ridiculous team. They win shit. I just like
Luka Modric.
But I mean, like Ronaldo going there as Ronaldo, and he should not never come back. Probably play for United, because I think that's the problem. Like, everybody remembers his last United appearance as opposed to when he was at United. But Ronaldo just became Ronaldo. Like Ronaldo, Messi, that's kind of like a total separate category. Like Bale, for example, was a good example. I mean,
but you could argue that Ronaldo left a good United team. Did he not?
You know what I go back to on that? Ronaldo is from Portugal. If Trent wasn't a Liverpool kid, if this is Diaz, I'm not like, what the fuck, you're going to Real. Because, we know, I mean, kids, especially in South America and a lot in Europe, really grow with the dream of playing in the Classico, blah, blah, blah. That's why, there's a reason why it's such a big game and all that kind of stuff. So I can understand it a lot better. I can give him the credit for that, not for the Trent situation. That's why it's unique, because he's playing for his boyhood club, who right now is one of the best in the world. That's what makes it different, I think. Because Ronaldo I can see a Portuguese kid growing up dreaming of playing for Real, for example.
Sure.
So that's ultimate. Like, he wasn't like a United player and stuff like that. I mean, you talk to some of these guys. I think that's what like Jamie Carragher is talking about. And I agree with him that he has that opportunity to be able to do that and still play and compete for the highest things. Whereas a lot of Liverpool legends did not. Like Stevie G did not like have a chance to compete regularly for like titles and Champions Leagues and stuff like that, which he's going to now that you've seen like the slot experience. Obviously, we don't know behind the scenes. That's the question I was going to ask you, because that's one thing I see very like varying in like the comments and stuff like that, is how do you think in the media, he basically said, well, he was going against great players, blah, blah, blah. He kind of had his back publicly, but they talk about him being very direct. I've heard it from Jones, Gakpo, Mo. Like, he just tells you he doesn't give a fuck what you're going to think or if your feelings are going to be hurt. What do you think Slot is telling Trent?
God.
You don't even know. You don't even know as an uncle what you're gonna say. But
you can't give me these kinds of questions on Monday morning, man. What, this is supposed to be a therapy session, not a grilling. My God.
The therapy session was yesterday, buddy. We're reloading today.
I don't know. I think it's also so difficult. I think when you think about specifically Trent, because we've talked about Trent for fucking 43 minutes. Obviously, it's specifically Trent.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be the topic. Yeah, I mean, we can. Well, they'll analyze the hell out of the game tonight. So,
will you?
I won't be there actually. So it's just
they might not.
Tonight, so,
you think about Trent and how he came up and who he came up with, and Klopp was very much, most probably like a father figure to him. I think he's mentioned that before, and I think we could see emotionally how he was at the end of last year after the last game.
I know where this is going. Okay, go ahead. You're not my dad. Like,
yes, like an analogy where Slot is the stepdad, if you will, and while they can both respect each other, there's never going to be that level of enough respect or enough willingness from Trent to go, yeah, you're doing the right thing. You're saying the right thing. It's always going to be like, well, Daddy Klopp did it that way, kind of. And I don't know if that's not necessarily unfair, because that's just all he's known. It's hard sometimes to change that, I think. But
yeah, that's fair.
But if it's going to be a point of contention between the both of them, and if they're not going to be able to get that resolved, then it's not going to work anyway. Even if he stays, imagine he stays, right? And he, let's say next year, has just a terrible run of form. Let's say 6, 7, 8 games, just shit after shit after shit. What are the fans going to be like then? Oh, we're so glad you stayed anyway? No, they're going to still pile on him.
If he stays, then does what?
If he stays and plays like crap.
Okay, I mean, if you play like crap, you're going to be, I mean, they're not going to be like, oh, you stayed, though. That's okay.
But that's a possibility, is that he stays. There's a possibility that he stays and then he's not as good. He drops off. And the fans are going to sit back and go, well, at least you stayed. Thank you for that. No, they're going to go, now we're fucking paying $400,000 a week for this shit? No,
Yeah, but I mean, that's not. I mean, if you play like shit wherever you go, people are going to be on your case. I would argue that he'd be coddled a lot more staying in Liverpool than going to Spain because there's nobody to have your back in Spain. You're the new guy in town, and you shit if that's
Jude.
if he's not playing well.
His best friend Jude has his back.
Yeah, like that. That's what I mean. The Jude is like, I'm trying to cover my own ass because in the beginning of the season they were all over Jude because he wasn't scoring as many goals and stuff. So I just don't. I know what you mean though, with the whole club to the Slot kind of a deal. Brian says, I imagine Slot is not discussing any of the contract. I don't think so either. But in terms of, you would think he would have to address the mindset and be like, hey, let's, if anything, he would probably say, let the people who sort out those details worry about that stuff. You focus on your game, kind of a deal. And when do you, I heard a lot of people saying like, I wouldn't play him here. I wouldn't play him till Forest or something like that. I honestly think he goes right back out there against Tottenham. One, I don't think Bradley can pull off 90. And two, I think you throw Trent out there and say, hey, go prove him wrong. Go show that it was just a bad freaking game and you're still in it for the team. I'll tell you what, there were a lot of like the whole Van Dijk, if looks could kill, the look that Van Dijk gave him yesterday and stuff like that. And I know there were some rumors yesterday. I didn't read anything about it today that there were like a lot of shit coming out of the locker room, noises and yelling and stuff, which I would hope, and that's part of the ordeal. If you guys think like these guys are always agreeing on everything, you got another thing coming. But I would think people in the locker room like Mo and stuff like that, who are actually in the same goddamn situation, while there's this difference because they're not the local kid and stuff, would be able to say, hey, this is the worst thing you can do in your situation is affect your play.
Yeah, it's very much if he wants to be a captain of this club, he's saying part of his dream was to become captain of this club. The effort that you put in games like this does not scream captain at all.
Would you want Trent as the captain of your club?
Not at this, no. And I've said that for the last couple.
Have you ever wanted Trent?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You've seen Trent and be like, that's the kind of guy I want to be my captain, because I've never had.
I think back to Boxing Day against Leicester, that game, and I think back to.
But you're talking about good performances. I'm talking about like looking at the person and saying that's the captain I want.
Right?
I never have.
But that was based on, of course, it's based off good performance. You're not going to look at. I guess you do look at bad performance to see who really is the leader of this club. And in which case, like McAllister is someone that I would see as more captain material than someone like Trent. But you asked me if there was ever a time where I wanted it, and yeah, there was. I mean, I think when you have during that season, you have that Boxing Day and Trent scores that goal, make it 4-0. There was that moment where I looked at him and go, man, like this could be the ascendancy for the next level for him for captaincy. Like this, that felt like a right moment. But in the last couple of years, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Just his attitude sucks. His effort sucks. It's not that you can have a bad game. We've talked about you can have a bad game, but you can't have a bad game and not give a shit. Those are two different things. And if you don't give a shit,
these games before though is my.
I know
people are acting like this happened the first time ever.
No, in the last couple of years, but not when we're talking about like 18 through 20, 21. That was rare because everything was clicking though. That's the thing. Everything was clicking.
A young kid who was trying to, like you still gonna say, oh, you might have said he's gonna be a future captain because he's young. Look at him, like like you said, you can kind of forecast the ascendancy. But I have never looked at his personality and said that's the captain.
That's fine. That's fair. I'll allow you your opinion. I'm just saying that it has changed a lot in the last 2 years, especially because when you go through periods of difficulty, that's when you see who really stands up, who really is.
But you wouldn't make him captain anymore. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think that's what I said at the beginning. Is that
okay?
Is that I wouldn't anymore. There was a time where I thought so, but because of the last 2 years, there isn't a chance for me to see him because I don't see that kind of petulance, for lack of a better word, in a captain. I don't think players look at that and go, that's something that I want as my leader. You know, maybe some kids who don't give a shit, really. They're like, oh yeah, that's, if my captain's doing that, then I can do whatever I want. I don't want that. I want someone to look at Van Dijk or McAllister. McAllister yesterday, again, he was one of the few players who actually felt like he understood the relevance and the gravity of the game, and what it needed. And and it's a guy from Argentina who probably wouldn't never want to be out there in that kind of weather ever. You know, he's probably the last one that wants to be in that kind of weather, and he's the one that's putting in the biggest shift.
Yeah, I'm not like Steve talked about the weather. I'm not buying that because they're in the same weather as well. And I realize bad weather. This is why I kind of was semi okay with the postponement rumors first, because shitty weather and shitty pitch usually favors the crappier team because it levels the playing ground. But there was really nothing wrong with the pitch to the point that it would affect the game. It wasn't the pitch, clearly. I thought yesterday that would. I mean, Henderson was a strong captain, and you can be different kind of captains. I loved Henderson as a captain because he was more the kind of personality I am on the pitch. Like a lot more vocal and
dictator.
You say dictator, I say vocal. But Van Dijk is a different style. You can have different styles, but you can't, like, going back to what I was saying, you can never have a captain. He's always had this late kickoff thing in his system, like getting into some stuff after the fact. And you can sometimes even have a captain like that who's actually starting shit and getting shit going and stuff. I know today's game is literally a bit different on that, but still you can have captains who are actually the like Robertson type, who are gonna actually do the shithousery as well, but still but you can't have that lack of effort things a couple of times and then, like, I don't want to say regularly because that's too harsh on him and it's not fair, but you can't have those blimps throughout where not only you're having a poor game, but your effort is questions, and then make that guy the captain of a guy whose effort has never been questioned, because they're not going to respect that. And people were like, he was made vice captain for a reason. I think we all know the reason, and it was never for leadership reasons. If anything, maybe it was because everybody knew this meant a lot more to him, and that's why he was given it. Because you have a captain. I mean, the vice captain is cute and all, but usually like the leader, like Mo. Mo is a leader on this team. He doesn't have captaincy, so you can kind of say, hey, he's going to be a leader anyway. We don't have to give him a title. He's going to lead by example. He's going to lead by the fact that people look up to him and respect what he does and stuff like that. But Stephen Cook says Dom might step up if captains Hungary. Anand would be happy, but I don't know, like, he would have to be with the club for at least a while to be there. I guess we can say the same about Mecca too, but Mecca brings the way Mecca carries himself. I think probably why you're saying, for example, like Mecca and some people in the comments too, the way he carries himself looks. I actually thought he was a lot older. We talked about this with like Angie when we were watching like an interview with him and stuff like that. When you listen to him, when you see how he acts and talks, he talks like a dude who's like your age. Whereas he's young, he's in his mid-20s. So anyway, go ahead.
Hey, I'm young too. What are you talking about? I'm just setting something up here because I'm just wanted to get your thoughts on this before we end the day. I'm just trying to find the right way to share the screen. I apologize for the
were sharing it and then you lost.
No, I know, because I couldn't make it bigger. Because of the Instagram comments. So I'm just
personal issue. Go ahead.
So I print screened it, put it on Paint, and yes, now it's bigger. So did you see this, by the way?
I just literally saw it right before we went live.
Yeah. So this was Mo's Instagram post.
Yes.
The only thing, no caption, fucking just the three of them. And a lot of the comments are like, it's just getting old now, Mo. Like, what? If in a different life, Mo would have been an amazing social media administrator, because he's just, all he does is just cryptic shit, and he just has so much fun. He does thirst traps and cryptic shit all the time. But I was curious to get your thoughts on this specific thing, to see if you put any weight. What do you think about it? Is there anything?
Honestly personally see this as, and having listened to Mo and talk and stuff, This is to Trent and not to the club.
Oh, interesting.
I would like, having seen him talk and what he says about, partially about being a leader on this team and talking to young guys, blah, blah, blah. I would take that him saying, like, these people are on the same boat and we're in this together kind of a thing. That, to me, says it's more of a message to Trent than message to the ownership. I know everybody who wants it to be ownership are going to look at that. And maybe that's why I'm kind of like, just to piss those people off, I'm looking the other way. But to me, when I see that, that was my initial reaction. Like right before I went, I'm like, I take that more at Trent, not as a dig at Trent, but more of a support of Trent and say, hey, we're all in the same situation. Like, and I think, he makes it a thing. You can I can sense the honesty when Mo says, I don't care what happens, but if I'm going out, I want to be going out winning this thing, the Premier League. He doesn't even give it. I mean, he clearly said he wants the Premier League more than the Champions League. I really do believe when he says that. He says, I think he made peace that if it is the end, it is the end. But I want to go out winning. And I think to me, that photo says we're all on the same boat.
How sweet.
Isn't it?
I like that. You've changed my mind. I am all for it.
What did you take it as?
You know what?
Finish the damn contract.
No, I just took it as like, what, Mo? Come on, what the fuck? Why? Why add salt to the wound, kind of thing? That's how I took it. But if how you described it, if that's how I took it originally, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, see, I took that as I mean, I saw it. I don't know. Is it a caption or anything? Is there context?
No, there's nothing. It's just the picture.
Yeah, see, I take it as that. Maybe that's me being Mr. Positive. Look at me being Mr. Positive on a Monday morning.
This is weird. It's like Freaky Friday. Like yesterday, the players changed bodies. The roof was leaking from a different stadium. Everything's just been off.
Yeah, see, this is why the therapy really helps. But hey, at the end of the day, I think it helps because kind of like Sparky was talking about in the pre-match yesterday, is the fact that because of Saturday's results, it doesn't seem as devastating. So you're still up 6 points, right? Yep. With a game in hand. Yep. So ultimately,
with a game against Arsenal too.
Yes, at home. And that's like the biggest thing, though. It is at Anfield. I think that when we were talking about, Chelsea being the threat when Arsenal was slightly lower and that Chelsea was like, oh, they're 2 points behind. It was, we're going to go to Stamford Bridge. So that was part of that equation. They don't have as much of a European competition and stuff. And now you look at Arsenal, it's like, they're going to come to Anfield and stuff. And that's huge. They will have to win at Anfield. Not that, it's impossible or anything like that, but that place will be rocking for that game. It will be like a city like game. I mean, Kevin C is the neutral as much as possible. The weather made that game. It did, but I just can't. We just had a bad game. I mean, they were not good. I just don't think. I can't put that on the weather. I hate to say it, but you look at some of the efforts and some of the. They were more up for it, and I hate like making it that general, like they really wanted it or whatever. But they were physically and mentally. This meant more to them in some ways than it did to us. That's odd to say because you're going for the title and they're fucking going nowhere. But I think this was in some ways their season in one game. They have like 2-3 games where it's their season. Whereas for us, life goes on. We're 6 points ahead and stuff like that. So there is that maybe the luxury of it. But
there was a lot more to lose for us than that.
Yes. Correct. But I think, and then maybe if we were tied, we gave the top spot to Arsenal or something like it would be a different equation. Sure. But you were like, oh, instead of being 8 points up, we're 6 points up, kind of a deal. But I'm sure the boys will talk the hell out of it. We have some early anniversary festivities going on tonight, so I will not be on air. 28 years. I'm expecting some kind of a lifetime achievement award, but I've been expecting that for a few years now, and it never seems to come my way. The funny thing is, Angie's waiting for the same award on the other side, so I don't know who's going to get it first.
What a typical husband thing to say.
I feel like I should get a Lifetime Achievement Award, but still, like I say, Angie's waiting for the same award, so it's going to be awkward when somebody gets it. But yeah, so Gally and Bickler will be on tonight. So I'm sure they'll dissect a lot more like the tactics and stuff like that. I'm sure they'll talk about Trent as well. But they'll dive into more of the game than our general uncle chats than anything else. But and then I'll be back obviously Wednesday morning. Tomorrow night is the panel show. It is actually the day of the anniversary tomorrow, so Mecca will be hosting the Just Pray for No Injuries, and you will be champs, as Kevin. See, that's why it's good to have Kevin in here as a third party, neutral, semi-neutral. He does want Liverpool to win, giving us thanks, Serzi. Congratulations to us. 28, so not too shabby. But yes, what are the plans for the Polish prince?
Groomer.
You're getting groomed.
I'm getting groomed.
So are you still close to the groomer, or you have to haul yourself back to the groomer?
No, I'm
or is the Palace's groomer that comes to you?
I'm roughly the same time away from a different location. So you can think the groomer is sort of in the middle between my old house and my parents' house. So now I just have to go the other direction. But it's similar.
So where are you now? What town are you in now?
It's called, I don't know if I want to leak that to the internet, sir. It's called Woodstock. Come find me.
Woodstock? Yeah, you're not going to go. Nobody's going to come over. I'm sorry, but nobody's going to come over to Woodstock, even to find you.
It's just a nice little small town.
Yes, it is. I almost actually, fun fact, I'm sure it's still not there because this was like 25 years ago, but I almost ran a restaurant in downtown Woodstock.
Which one?
I don't remember what the fuck it was. It was kind of like a pub kind of place, right in like middle of downtown. I don't know if it's still there. I was offered it. I actually had just started. This is like right after college, like maybe a year or so after college. And I'm glad as fuck I didn't take it. So there's that. It was like this Turkish dude I met, and he was like, hey, like he had like a couple of restaurants, and he was like, would you like to run the one? And it was like a really nice place. It's huge. I'm sure it's not there anymore, but it was like a really nice place. Like we went there and everything like that. But yes, it has turned out well for me that I did not take that because I definitely didn't want to go to a restaurant.
I don't know if I'm being trolled right now or if Steven was actually in Woodstock.
No, he is because Steve is in Rockton or Rockford. He was in Rockford. I think he might
really?
Be
oh, so now. Yeah, Rockford. Yeah, I mean, I think Rockton.
You're probably closer to Rockford than you are to like Chicago right now.
Yeah, a couple hours away.
Yeah, because I know like that's when I was in Rockford when I was offered the gig, and I'm glad I did not take that. Kevin says I'm drinking.
Oh, it's crazy. Small world.
It is a small world, but it'll be even smaller tonight when it's just Bickler and Gally talking you through the Manchester United game. Have a great week, everybody. Another game is coming up on Thursday, so we'll erase this out of the memory, hopefully with a win. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you guys tonight. Take care.